The information presented in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not meant to be a substitute for clinical mental health treatment. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 988 or head to your nearest emergency room.
Welcome to the Black People Die by Suicide 2 podcast, where we discuss all things mental health with an emphasis on suicide in the Black community. I'm your co-host, Jordan.
And I am your co-host, T-Kea.
If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. If you are coming back for another episode, welcome back. We appreciate your support. If you all find anything in this video helpful or you like the discussion, make sure that you follow us wherever you're listening or watching so you can stay tuned to all the episodes we have coming up. We drop every other Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. If you want to leave us a comment, feel free. We take feedback. Definitely leave us a comment, and yeah, welcome to today's episode. So at the beginning of every episode, we like to do a check-in to talk about how we're feeling and like really tap into how we're really feeling, because too often we say that we're fine and we're good out of politeness, but that's not really how we're feeling. So I'll take it over to T-Kea and ask how you're feeling today.
How I'm feeling. And I also have to acknowledge we add the PF2
Oh, yeah.
because we was like, oh, our psychological fortitude. Jordan always does a better job at explaining it than I.
Yeah, so we got psychological fortitude from the esteemed Dr. Rita Walker. If you've been listening for a while, you know we always shout her out. But your psychological fortitude is basically a score from 0 to 10, with 0 being I'm not doing great and 10 being I'm functioning at my highest level of self. So you're kind of giving yourself a measure of how well you're doing and how well you're able to juggle life's challenges at that time. And your PF can change from day to day, week to week, month to month. Just, it's a good thing to check in with yourself and see how you're doing. So we'll also give our psychological fortitude score when we talk about how we're feeling.
Yes. How am I feeling? I'm like that little kid, that video that went viral. It's been a long day. I'm tired, I'm cranky, and I just don't want to be bothered right now. I feel like that little boy, okay? I was talking to my mom on the phone, and she had put me on hold, and I just hung up. And I text her, Mom, I'm going to have to talk to you later because I have not been sleeping very well because of the time difference and trying to get back adjusted and then work, etc. So my patience is very thin. I could be very short and snappy. The cheetah is bound to come out. So yes, I'm really on thin ice with the irritability. So I have been really trying to be mindful of how I interact with people. So I just had to tell my mom, I'll talk to you later because my mood is just not there. So that is where I am. If I had to rate, so tired and irritable, those are my emotions. If I had to give my psychological fortitude, I am going to give myself a solid 5 today.
Okay.
Yes.
As for me, I'll start off with my score and then I'll explain. I'm probably at a good 3, and that sounds awful because it is. But yeah, this morning I woke up. I was having some really weird dreams. Like I kept waking up in the middle of the night, which is never a good sign for me. Never a good sign for me. And for some reason, I just kept waking up, tossing and turning. But when I do that, I'll have like vivid dreams if I'm able to go back to sleep, usually between the hours of like 4 and 6 or 7 in the morning. And
So that's why you responded to my email that at 6 something this morning?
yeah, I was up.
Which I was not expecting you to respond to an email at 6 something, because usually I'm up working that early. I'm like, Jordan responded immediately? What is going on?
I had the weirdest dream, and I don't even remember what the dream was about or anything, but I remember waking up and instantly having the feeling that I was going to have a panic attack, but I was able to stop it. I don't know why I felt that way, but I suspect that usually I have anxiety and depression together. It's been a while probably since I updated y'all, but I got back on medication, and the medication that I'm on is an antidepressant. So my depression is being treated, which makes my anxiety more pronounced, if that makes any sense. Yeah, that's what's happening right now.
So are you going to maybe get medication for your anxiety too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have to follow up with my psychiatric nurse practitioner. I think I had an appointment already for next month, but I'm going to text her, or text her assistant rather, and ask if I can be seen sooner than that, because when I last saw her, I didn't really have the anxiety like I do now, but I think I was only 3 weeks into my medication. So this was maybe like 2 weeks ago. And I felt better, but my anxiety is really, really bad. And not surprising. This is something I've been dealing with on and off for a long time. Unfortunately, I just have that type of depression that ebbs and flows, and I'm just in a low right now, and I'm trying to get better. And I talked to my therapist about it this morning, and we're trying to come up with some things that could be helpful for me. And I was trying to think, like, what did I always do in the past when I felt like this? But usually it was me going to the hospital. So I don't know. I actually went to a hospital program at the beginning of April and had an assessment done, and I was going to go into probably an intensive outpatient program, which I think is probably a good level of care for me at this time. At this point, I might even need to go up to PHP, but I'm hoping that's not the case.
You said PHP. We could have new listeners and they may not know what
yes,
PHP
so
is.
PHP is partial hospitalization program. So this is when you go to a hospital for psychiatric treatment, but you're not staying there overnight like you would inpatient. You normally report to the hospital almost like 6-7 hours a day, like a full-time job. And you get to go home in the evenings and take care of your regular things you have to take care of. But you're just not, you're hospitalized, but you're not actually like in there like you would be for inpatient. And then IOP is half of that. So it's the halftime of partial hospitalization. So I don't know. My therapist feels like that's probably the most appropriate thing for me to do right now. And I agree. I'm not necessarily looking forward to it, but I will say that I'm glad that I'm still, after all these years later, like willing to take that step to get better. I just haven't heard from the hospital that I reached out to. So I'm considering maybe I just need to go to Shepherd Pratt. And I was trying to avoid that because Shepherd Pratt is a further drive out for me. But you know what? At this point,
It's okay. You can just come hang out with me because it's in my neck of the woods.
right. She's not far. I just, yeah, I'm trying to get myself back on track, and I go between feeling really, really sad about it and kind of being at peace with it, because I'm sad that I feel this way again, but I have some peace with it because I know that I've been here before and I've gotten out of it. And that makes me feel a heck of a lot more hopeful. Because it's, I can get through this again. So yeah, I'm at a 3 right now, but it's just been
Together we making 8, okay? We winning as a couple. All right?
yes. So that's how we're doing, and we just want to encourage everyone who's listening and watching to really tap in and take notice of how you're doing. If you want to learn more about psychological fortitude, you can check out Dr. Walker's book, The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health. And I'll leave a link in the description box or the show notes so you all can check that out. But yeah, that's how we're doing today. But you know what? It's okay, because today's going to be a good and exciting episode. T-Kea, tell them why.
I am excited, y'all, okay? Leon, bring out the pew, 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 because we are officially one. Oh my gosh, we are one. The podcast just turned one, so we're celebrating our anniversary for the podcast. And then in 2 weeks, the organization Black People Die by Suicide 2 will be one. Like, I am excited. I'm also overwhelmed. I am also not scared, but just, I think it's just excited, overwhelmed, and it's just like, oh my gosh. When I look how far we come in a year is mind blowing to me. There are organizations that have been around much longer, that are well more established, and have not done all that we have done in a year. So if Jordan's stressed out, it's because of me, y'all. I know I stress Jordan out. I just need her to tell me when I'm stressing her out. I just be like, okay, T-Kea, take a step back.
No, it's really not you. The more I thought about how I'm feeling, I honestly realized that I kind of experienced this every couple of years because my therapist wanted me to write down how I guess the history of how I kind of ended up going to the hospital each time. And as I was writing, I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, this is a thing. But I guess it makes sense with the type of depression that I have because technically my diagnosis is major depressive disorder. Severe reoccurring, so it just comes back and kicks me every couple years. So no, it's not you. I think it's something that I need to learn how to manage now, so that it won't have as much impact on me in the future. But it's definitely had a very severe impact on me, like all throughout my 20s. I'm 34 now. All throughout my 20s, and I want to be better prepared for this. So yeah, it's not you. Besides that, listen, I can't believe it's been a year. I don't even know where the year went.
I know, Jordan. Like, I remember coming to you, and it was like February, I think, of last year.
Yeah.
And I said, Jordan, so I'm thinking about doing this podcast because I remember someone asked me, like, T-Kea, will you ever do a podcast again? Because shout out to the Fireflies that kind of transferred over to Black People Die by Suicide too. And I said, absolutely not. Because when I was doing my podcast initially, well, one, it was only audio, it was not video, but we have Leon. So I was doing all of the editing, plus promoting on social media, plus reaching out to the guests. Like, while a podcast may seem easy, if you will, there are a lot of moving parts. And I became burnt out because my podcast was also weekly as well.
Right.
On top of working and doing all of that. So it just became a lot. And I felt like at that time, I'd done all that I could do. And I felt like it was time to close that chapter. And I was just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to. But then I believe the good Lord planted in my spirit a podcast to talk about suicide, because I was looking up podcasts on suicide prevention, suicide awareness, or just Black suicide specifically. And I really couldn't find anything. And there were a few that I found, but they weren't like consistent. And so I was like, if I do a podcast, it would not be weekly. I would outsource for editing, like, because I had learned from all of that.
Right.
But I still wasn't sure. And I just came, Jordan, what do you think about this? And Jordan was like, you know, I think I'll be like a good reoccurring guest. And I was like, sis, but that's not the question that I'm asking. I'm asking, would you be a co-host? I don't know how long it was for you to like decide, but I feel like it wasn't that long for you to say like, I will do it. I'm interested in knowing like what made you say like, yeah, I'll do it.
You know, I had the thought that, like, honestly, Jordan, what's the worst that could happen? Like, I think, and I've told my story and talked about my suicidal thoughts before, so it wasn't even really my concern of sort of talking about that. I guess I wasn't expecting so many people to be receptive to the idea. Like, I remember even having a fear of telling my mom, like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast with T-Kea, and we're going to be talking about suicide, because I just knew she was going to judge me, like, why do you want to talk about this? Like, why do you keep bringing this up? Because that's just like person that she is. Like, she's of the generation of, like, things happened, get over it, move on. But I was like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, you can take this as an opportunity to help people. As someone who has suffered, as someone who continues to suffer from time to time. And yeah, I just thought, it's so much bigger than me and my fear, I guess.
Yeah, well, I have seen you transform. You were a cocoon, and now you're just a butterfly just flying all around here.
I've had a relative tell me that as well. I was like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'm very, very introverted. Y'all probably already know this. Like, especially if you've been around from the beginning. I don't really post a lot on social media or do anything like that, but I'm trying to let this be my bolster into kind of getting back out there in the world, because I am like a long time
getting back out there. You are back out here. You in these streets.
Yeah, that's true. I've been
the mental health streets.
And this year we've been so many places. We've been to New Orleans, New York City. I went to Panama. T-Kea went to the White House.
Panama City, Panama.
Yes.
Not Panama City or the Florida. We talking about the country.
Yes, almost South America, the country. Gosh, where else have we been? I feel like we've been everywhere.
It's too hard. Honestly, I can't even keep up, Jordan. I can't. But it has been a marvelous year. Mm-hmm. I have learned one heck of a lot. I've been pushed to capacity. I am at capacity currently, but I have been working on that. So I guess I'll ask the question. Mm-hmm. Looking back on the past year, what are some key moments or even episodes that stand out to us?
I'm going to say, we had so many good ones.
Ooh.
The one that always sticks out to me, and I haven't listened to it in a while, was Jasmine Pierre's, the creator of the Safe Place app. Mm-hmm. I feel like that was a really good episode because she shared a lot about like her story and her personal experiences, and we had a lot of parallels just in the things that she's gone through. And I always think about that episode, and it makes me like think of her. That was one that like really, really stood out to me. But don't get me wrong. There's plenty of others too.
Episodes. So since you did the podcast, I'm going to speak from an organizational standpoint. One of my favorite moments was meeting Michelle Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Of Destiny Child in New Orleans. Y'all, I was on a mission, okay? Jordan will tell you when... Jordan learned a lot about me in the past year, okay? She saw some things she never thought she would see, okay? Some things we can't share on the podcast. But just know, we've been through a lot together. And I remember, I was like, oh, she's going to be there. She's doing a book signing. I was like, Jordan, so this is the plan. I had a whole game plan. Like, we're going to get there early so we could be in the front, so she could see our t-shirts. I had a whole plan. And as soon as we walked into the book signing, she was on Instagram Live and she had her phone, and we was walking and we just was like, hi, waving until she's like, wait, what does your shirt say? I'm so glad you asked. So we at Essence Music Festival, that was a big thing. She put us on her Instagram, which was great. So y'all just speak it into existence that we are going to eventually get Michelle Williams. That is a goal for 2024. So if somebody is listening and you have the connections, tell our good sis that we waiting. We know your schedule is very busy, and we are willing to accommodate you in whatever we need to do. But yeah, y'all, we gonna make it happen. We have reached out. We've had some communication with her. and we were trying to work some things out, but it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So that was, I would say, one of the highlights. And I probably have to add another one too. Dr. Walker. I love Dr. Walker.
We also met her at the same time we met Michelle.
Yes,
the same panel that they were on.
Yep, we met her, and then we saw her again in New York at Charlemagne's event, and then we had her on the podcast, and now she followed me on my personal social media, and I follow her on her social media. She commented on my stuff. And yeah, so I love Dr. Walker, and I also told her I'm going to be reaching out to her because I need some expertise as relates to this PhD venture that I'm on. So she's like, absolutely reach out to me. So yes,
those were really good moments, and I have to say, like, Michelle Williams, she has such a sweet spirit about her. She was very warm. I just felt like that was my homegirl because, like, you know, we're millennials and Destiny's Child.
Right.
Y'all, when Destiny's Child broke up, I was broken. You know what I'm saying? A whole generation of black girls, our heart just broke, right? So it felt like somebody I knew for so long, never met this woman, but she was so sweet. And Dr. Walker was also, we love Dr. Walker. I'm telling you, as we say in the beginning of every episode, the esteemed Dr. Walker, okay? She's always going to be Black People Die by Suicide 2 family. We really had some moments.
Yeah.
We really did. You got me thinking now, like.
Yes. I really just, and I know, I don't know what goes on in Jordan's brain besides what she tells me, but what I feel like goes on is that I throw her in the fire. And Jordan is in the fire trying to figure out which way do I turn to get out this fire.
Let me tell y'all a story. And I feel like I've probably mentioned this before in our episode. Could not remember which one it was. T-Kea is shorter than me, but T-Kea has the fastest little legs you have ever seen in your life. And I feel like this happened at Essence. This feel like this happened for sure at Charlemagne's event in New York City. T-Kea's like, oh, that's somebody. And I turn around and I'm like, how is she already, like, how is she across the auditorium already? I'm just confused. Y'all, I got to keep up, okay? I got to get some good walking shoes, some really comfortable inserts because sis is on it. Yeah.
I see a person at an event. There are people who I'm excited about, or maybe I've been following them on social media. Maybe we follow each other. There are tons of people where I follow them on my personal social media account and have been, and we've interacted. So there were like even Jason Phillips. We've been following each other, and we got a chance to meet him at Charlemagne's event in person.
Y'all stay tuned for that episode.
Yes, I'm excited. Ashley also is someone that I follow on social media. She's a therapist. We follow each other. We got a chance to meet in person. So I really be in the mental health social media street, so that's how I really know people. Like even Dr. Shonda too. We gonna get her too. And I was like, Jordan, I'm like, that's Dr. Shonda from. Jordan was just looking at me like, Tia, what are you talking about? Jordan, she like be on social media, but like not on social media. She like she be in the Twitter streets, but
yeah. You know, a lot of people I would not know them by sight. I might know their name, but because I don't really scroll like the picture stuff, like, you know, Instagram and TikTok and stuff, I would not recognize these folks. But I'm really glad that I got to meet like some of these amazing people because you recognize them. And I'm realizing that, like, I don't think I realized how many Black people are in this space, like doing amazing work. You know what I mean? Because I think
it's a lot of us.
It's a lot of us. And it's impressive. And I think if you're someone who is interested in connecting to the world of mental health as a Black person, this is a wonderful time because there's so many aspirational people out there. Even if you're not ready to delve into like clinical treatment yourself, there's things you can look at. Like there's Renshawn Millers out there. There's Jason Phillips out there. There's Dr. Shonda.
Dr. Raquel
Walker. Yeah.
Dr. Raquel Martin.
Right.
Who we gonna get on the podcast because I love her. Okay. So they're amazing. It's funny. I was being a little petty in my head. We said there are amazing people, you know, doing great work. In my head, I said, like me.
Yes. And even over the past year, like T-Kea has gotten a lot of recognition from all kinds of. How many awards have you gotten this past year?
2. I was the Black Mental Health Alliance And most recently, the Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon for their National Peer Leader of the Year.
I thought you got something else. Did Maryland Office of Suicide Prevention didn't give you something?
No, they honored me for their campaign. It was like a trailblazer
That's
campaign,
right.
but it was just well, yes, it was. They did honor me, but it wasn't like I didn't get like a award like I did at the other two events.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, I was a part of that trailblazer. I'm like, I'm a trailblazer.
Yes.
I guess I am. I do create things from scratch and make them happen. Okay, that's what's mind blowing to me. I think that's why I get so emotional because I had something in my brain and it is out in front of me. Like that takes a certain level of skill, of confidence.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like it comes naturally, but even though it comes naturally, if you allow your head to get in the way, it can. Like you can talk yourself out of it. And I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, when I see that we had, like, for instance, all of the volunteers show up or people express interest in volunteering, we had over 50 people. We had over 40 people express interest in volunteering. I'm like, over 50 people want to do something for free. That says a lot about people connecting to the mission and the importance of the organization or the significance of the organization. It's just things like that. And it blows my mind every single time we get on like a committee call or we're doing something. It's like, girl, you really like conjured this up in your brain. So I'm very amazed. So there are so many moments. It's hard to pick though.
Mm-hmm. And I think probably the most impactful thing that I've experienced in terms of like working with people in the community in doing Black people die by suicide too is there's so many Black people out there who have a story that relates to suicide and you would never even know it.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when I was in Panama, I had a lot of people, even like baby boomers, that generation, Gen X, that came up to me and told me stories about like people that they knew, family members, friends that had died from suicide and they had never talked about it to anyone before, but they felt like this organization that you thought of gave them a safe space to actually be able to say, this is what happened to me, or this is what happened to someone else that I love. And now they kind of have a place to put that. You know what I mean? They don't have to hold that in
Mm-hmm.
to themselves. And I had a lady, so sweet, she's from North Carolina, who told me that she came up to me and she was in tears after I did my presentation in Panama. And she was like, thank you so much. Like, you helped me save my son because her son struggles with mental health issues and particularly suicidal ideation, but she didn't really know like what to say to help him. And she said like, y'all really gave me the language to be able to provide support to him, and I would have never got that if you all hadn't like been here at this conference and talking about it. So
It's I'm always amazed. I kid you not, always amazed. And even like our support groups.
yeah.
Our support groups, the fact that people have said this is a reaffirming space. This is the first time I felt validated in my 30 plus years of living. Like, do y'all realize how powerful that is? Like, we are really helping to save people's lives. And it's sometimes hard to see or measure, especially because when you're in the day to day just doing the work, just going, but when you hear those moments, it kind of makes me stop and smell the roses and say like, we're on to something.
Mm-hmm.
And people are connecting really well. So it's been great. But even on the flip side of that, asking the question of, I feel like this is a good one. What unexpected challenges did we face as it relates to whether it's the podcast or the organization, and how have we overcome them?
Oh, that is a good question. I always knew that a nonprofit like took a lot of work because I've worked for nonprofits before, but I didn't realize like how much actually goes into everything.
Like starting from literally the bottom up.
I was like, oh, wait. I don't know what I thought. I guess I just thought like programs fell out the sky and stuff just kind of just made itself happen. And now I'm like, oh, this is intense. But it's a good learning experience, I think, because I've always wanted to do nonprofit work for the most part, even when I was in undergrad. So I was familiar, like, okay, you know, you got volunteers, you got to get grants. Like, I had an understanding of some of the basic things about it. But there's a lot that goes into it, like bylaws and board of directors, and you got to make sure you have these reports done. And it's, yeah, I don't think I realized how much it actually entailed. But it's very interesting. And it's particularly interesting when we have conversations with people who are in the nonprofit world and they are at a nonprofit that they've been at for a while. I mean, even talking with Dr. Ocasio, Dr. Amy. Her foundation, for those of you who don't know, is here in Maryland, out in Cecil County, almost Delaware. Live for Thomas, and it's in dedication to her son that passed away. And we were able to meet with her yesterday, and she was like, "Yeah, it's always like this." And I was like,
"It's a whole therapy session." I think it's also different when you're the person who started it and you're building it from the ground up.
Yeah.
Opposed to sometimes when there are made some nonprofits where people could join them and they're well established. It's still a lot of work, but there are tons of nonprofits who are literally like grassroots. That takes a lot of work, but if you put the work in, great things can happen. And I think, wait, did I cut you off?
No, you're good. I'm done.
Yes, it has definitely been a lot of work. I think overcoming, I'm trying to think of something I've had to overcome. I think for me, one of the challenges that I've faced is I've always been do too much my whole life. Okay. All my life I had to fight with always doing too much. Okay. But with the nonprofit is also learning that sometimes there are things that don't have to be done in immediate. Like I'm a person who get tons of ideas. I believe God gives me a lot of ideas, a lot of visions that are implanted in my spirit that it wakes me up in the middle of the night and I have to write it down. Or I'm in the shower or I'm driving, like I'm literally a well of ideas. But sometimes it can sometimes cause challenges because I get excited and then I want to do all this stuff and then I have to draw back and say, wait, hold on, girl. You already got a lot of stuff going on. You can't do all this at one time. So I feel like that's been challenging for me. But the positive side to that is I'm okay with saying, okay, we have to put this on pause. Let's figure out when we could do this at another time or etc. So I am proud of myself for that because I do have a level of awareness. And when I realize it, I'm able to take a step back and say like, hey, this feels a little bit too much. But then I also have like the board that also holds me accountable. Like one of our board members that Courtney said, Kea, do you think we should be doing this right now? Do you feel like this is too much? Or maybe we need to take a vote on postponing this partnership or whatever. I'm always ready to put up a fight for something that I want. But because I knew that I was already stretched thin, I was like, yeah, let's vote. And let's just put this on pause. So I feel like that has been a challenge for me. And even from the organizational standpoint, I think what also has been a challenge for me, and I'm learning, and I think I was texting you about this yesterday, like the whole people management thing. Like I have worked in organizations where I've had, I think maybe at the most 5 people that I've helped manage. It's a whole different ball game. And I think it's also because it's new. Like we're all figuring this stuff out, as we go along. Like I have my consulting business, but running an LLC and a nonprofit is not the same. It's structured. There's more rules that you have to follow. LLC, I could just do what I want. Don't got to really answer to nobody. Technically, the board of directors, they're our bosses.
Right.
So, it it's been a lot for me learning to also trust people, delegate, and ask for help, saying like this is too much. And I'm also proud of myself because I feel like with those challenges, I've been more vocal in saying like, hey, I'm stressed out. I'm doing a lot. Like I need help. Um and I've it's been great in the sense that it has forced me to advocate for myself, say what my needs are. I feel like it's been a lot of challenges, honestly. And then the other challenge I feel like is also trying to navigate our friendship and being business partners.
Right.
Because let's be clear, my friendship, sisterhood, ride or die with Jordan is before Black people die by suicide too. So I said that right. Yes, it is before the organization. So I sometimes struggle with trying to juggle the two and saying like, okay, are there to tell myself like we have to have times away from the organization, whether we traveling somewhere that is not work related or something like that. And I always try to keep that like top of mind. So like when you have been struggling and I had showed up with all of the whole goodies and stuff, that was me like trying to be mindful, step outside of the organization and like, we're friends first. So I feel like that's been challenging for me.
Yeah. Um, Gosh, I definitely feel like it's been a lot of challenges for myself, um, especially with being able to manage my manage my own mental health and trying to help others.
Mm.
And I'm realizing how bad I am at giving other people suggestions about what they should do and then actually making sure I'm taking care of myself.
What would be helpful that they do?
Yeah,
Dr. Walker, you heard that?
I did. I said should.
Mm-hmm.
What would be helpful? Dr. Walker's probably like, she says this every episode. I do. Um, yeah, it's tough for me, particularly right now, because and it's so interesting. Like if you've been dealing with mental health struggles for a while, you may get to the point where you're like self-aware enough to know that something isn't quite right. And I foresaw, like, I could see something was kind of going left back earlier this year. But I was like, no way. Like, it's been a couple years now since I really was like struggling. And my regret is that I didn't do something to stop it sooner out of the assumption that it was just passing and I would feel better like as the time went on, but that was completely inaccurate.
But how would you
Um,
know?
right, exactly. I don't know. I don't know because I've had years like for example, I guess for the people that are listening like what the beginning of the year is always a tough time for me. The beginning of the year and then June, with June being like Father's Day and the anniversary of my father's death. And the fact that the anniversary of my father's death falls on Father's Day every couple of years, the exact day. So those are usually the two times of year that I'm just like, oh, my mental health might take a little dip. But for the past few years, it's kind of dipped and I was able to still kind of maintain. But this year was just not like that. And I wish I would have been a little bit more proactive in realizing that it wasn't getting better on its own sooner. You know what I mean? Like this is why I was talking to my therapist earlier today. If this is going to be a reoccurring thing for me, which it has been, like I need to figure out a way to really get on top of it so that it has, I guess, as minimal impact as possible on me being able to do the things that I need to do and yeah, it's been not great, but I'm realizing that this is something that has been affecting me for a long time, and I actually need to do something um, to make sure that it, again, just has as minimal impact as possible. And when I went to have the assessment done in April, I ended up finding out that I had ADHD, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, ADHD is like the little kids that are hyper and they're jumping all over the place. But I actually have like the oh gosh, what is it? It's not inactive. It's it's not the hyperactive. Well, it is hyperactive, but it shows up in a different way. Um I forget. But yeah, the type that I have, I need to do something to fix that because it's not just impacting my ability to be as present with the organization as I want, but it's also impacting my ability to do even the simplest things like in life, if that makes sense.
But it can also be a combination. I think it could be a combination because if your anxiety also prevents you to
Yeah.
freeze up and not. And then if you're also struggling with depression, then that
Mhm.
also impacts your motivation level. So it's just like a melting pot.
Yes, I guess it's like the perfect little mix of of issues. And I guess all that to say, I realize that I've been like treating the anxiety and depression um for all of these years, but maybe that's the missing piece to keep me kind of in an ongoing period of recovery. So I'm excited. If anything, it taught me some things about myself, this organization, and my need to really make sure that I'm staying on top of my own mental health and figuring out like ways that I can be more effective with managing it because yeah, it just
Yes. Um, it's very interesting, which is why we're Jordan and I, you know, talk. We well, not like they are in our text messages, but talked about like how we're gonna work together, figure out what that like a contingency plan looks like for if I'm struggling, if you're struggling, what happens if we're both struggling at the same time? Because regardless, the organization has to go on. It can't stop because we're going through something. So that's something that we're currently trying to figure out and work through. And I think for me, I have been trying to think about all of that because I was like, I never want to be in this situation again. I never want Jordan to be in this situation again. I never want to be in this situation again. It has been definitely some growing pains, I guess, with the organization. Um, but good, of course, in the sense of learning a lot. For me, I have been just trying to figure out and also checking in saying like, hey, can you handle this? Is this too much? And I don't just do it with Jordan, but I've done it with shout out to Alyssa, our communications coordinator. But I'll ask her too, like, is this too much? What do you feel comfortable with? So it's also having a level of not just yeah, it's empathy, but also emotional intelligence where you're being aware of what's going on with people who are supporting you, which has been a big thing for me. And even now that we're working with Destiny, our administrative assistant, and saying that to her too, or even saying that during our committee meeting. So it has been very interesting, and I sometimes feel like, oh my gosh, this is so many things to manage, not just the programs and the grants and stuff, but then having to delegate things from the top down, like, oh hey, can you do this, can you do this? And sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so much. But all of that to say, it has been a great year. We have done a lot. um, just us, our story. If you're new, me and Jordan met in the hospital and we became really great friends, and then we started the podcast, then the organization. So I think that's another reason why people really stick to our story, because of our lived experience.
right.
And that's always our fun fact that we share with people. um, but yeah, I'm like, there was one other question that I also wanted to ask,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to make sure, I'm trying to figure out, oh, what advice we would give to someone starting their own podcast or embarking on a similar journey or organization?
I would say do your research, but
Mm-hmm.
just do it. Like if you have an idea for um, a podcast or a nonprofit organization, because I think we as like peers and even people who have struggled with a mental health disorder or we have someone close to us that have struggled with a mental health disorder, we often want to like get out there and help. You know what I mean? Like make an impact, make things better for people. But sometimes it doesn't seem like it's, I guess, achievable. I'm telling you right now, like if I could be sitting here doing this, you definitely could sit here and do this. I do think for sure, like, do your research, kind of know what all it's going to entail, but don't ever feel like it's something that you can't do because I felt that way, and that's not
The case.
that's not the case.
Can I add to that?
Yeah,
I would add also tapping into your network. Um, I have, I mean, I've always had like a pretty robust network of people, whether in my personal life or in my professional life. Um, from being a kid doing pageants, like I've always just had a huge network of people. And I remember when I started telling people in my support system, whether it's personal or professional, everyone was like, oh, this is great. And so many people have supported family members, friends, colleagues have donated to the organization or they have come to events. Some of my friends uh, are on the committee for our awards gala. So I've had a huge amount of people support me. So I would definitely say to tap into your network and don't assume that people don't want to help or people don't care, because Team Kia has definitely come through. Like, yeah, former supervisors, like just yeah. And I know that I'm also just naturally like kind of a people kind of person, and I feel like people naturally draw to me. But that's something that I've started. I want to say I didn't realize it before, but sometimes we can get in our own way and say people don't want to support me, people don't care. But if nothing else really taught me, and I've known that people supported me, but I feel like I really saw it with this organization. So I would encourage people to tap into their network.
yeah. I think another thing that I would encourage people to do is like really take care of yourself
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it is really hard to be as effective as you want to be when you aren't feeling well. Um, so I think really prioritizing that you're taking care of yourself, you're implementing some self care in some way. If you need to see a therapist, or even, like I said, I just got back on medication. If you have to go the medication route, whatever you have to do to make yourself, I guess, function at your highest level of self, don't be afraid to do that, because what do you always say? You have to pour from your
Oh, you have to give
overflow.
from your
Yep,
overflow. So
yep.
keep your cup so full that it's overflowing and you give from that. Because currently I am definitely giving from my cup. I am not giving from an overflow. And the same thing is with Jordan. But together we a full cup. So I'm going to take it.
Doing, yeah, 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 yeah. It's been a great year, and I hope that if other people are inspired by Black people die by suicide too, and they want to do something similar, I'm going to encourage you to go for it, because it's much needed. Just from the feedback that we've gotten from people in person or online, it's definitely needed, and we'll always be in support of more people like us, for us.
Yes, by us, all
By
us.
us, yes. So
Yes.
exciting.
So before we move to the next segment, I'm going to do a rundown because I had to put it in here. All the things that we have done.
Pew 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 pew.
Right. So in our inaugural year, our podcast in the past 12 months has had total, not per episode, total 20K plus downloads. We've participated. That's right, Leon. We participated in over 20 community events. We got a sponsorship from the Black Women's Mental Health Institute, and all of our support groups are free because of that sponsor. So y'all don't gotta even pay. We've been recognized on Good Morning Washington, WHUR, WUSA, the Baynet, Revolt's podcast with Pager Dr. Shonda, and another podcast, Changing Our Outcomes. We've seen a 91% increase of engagement on Instagram. So shout out to our Instagram family, okay? They really be holding us down. Leon, you just pumping us up. Of course, Jordan mentioned, leading the conference in Panama City, Panama. I did a TED style talk, which was not really for Black people died by suicide too, but which was a big thing for me because I am really, really on my speaking circuit in my bag right now when it comes to speaking. So that was big. But the volunteers I mentioned, we had over 50 people. We fundraised. We were invited to the White House. Jordan mentioned about the Peer Specialist Awards. And the most recent one, this ain't a me thing, this a we thing, okay? Because Black People Die by Suicide 2 is the organization of the year, okay? Of the year. And we are only 11 months. So by the time y'all hear this, we will have just gotten our award from Youth Stress. So shout out to Rashawn Miller and Youth Stress and all that they're doing over there. We were nominated, and we're 11 months, and we are the organization of the year. So that is what we have done, and I'm going to let you take it over to the spotlight.
All righty. So for our spotlight, all the things that we do, it's for this reason. So if you're new here, our spotlight, we like to highlight someone who has passed away from suicide, just to keep their memory alive. And I think it's the driving force behind our work because, frankly, there's too many of us that are passing away. So for today, we actually learned of this from one of our followers. Phoenix Skye Maloney is her son, and he loved music, loved spending time with family. He was living with schizoaffective disorder, but he was still able to enjoy like lots of things that he was into, which is amazing. And his mother actually reached out to us because he had passed away from suicide this month, May 1st, 2024, at the age of 20. And it's tough for me to talk about because it's so fresh. And in the midst of all the things that we've accomplished as an organization, it just really drives home the need for us to keep going because people are really suffering. And I guess it feels fresh for me too because I'm kind of suffering in my own way now. But yeah,
that was a big one because I remember when we first started, she had reached out and was saying she was so glad that she found our organization, or at the time I think podcast, because I believe his dad had passed away from suicide, and then and it was around their anniversary. It was, and it's like she was like, today's the anniversary of my children's dad, and then she reaches out, and I was dealing with a mixture of emotions, of course, sad, but then there was a sense of, I'm gonna put not happiness, but it meant a lot that as it just happened, she thought of us. Like, that was so impactful. I believe the message was sent at like 3 something in the morning in our DMs. That was like, oh my gosh, in the midst of that, she thought of us. It just blew my mind. So rest in peace to Skye, and Love and light and condolences to everyone impacted by his death. So now we're going on to our resource. Our resource is Eustress Inc. I mentioned they're a nonprofit. They focus on raising awareness, breaking stigma in Black and Brown communities. They host their Let's Talk About It walk, which we will have just finished when y'all hear this, in Charlotte, North Carolina, and their Let's Talk About It gala, which is where we would have received our award. And it was funded by Rashawn Miller, who's a licensed professional counselor. He's a speaker. He's a social entrepreneur like moi. I think that's why I love him. He got his private practice. He got his nonprofit. Rashawn is just, he's out here. He's killing it. And he's doing amazing work. And he lives with bipolar disorder. So you can definitely check out Eustress. Their website is Eustress Inc. Eustress is EUSTRESS Inc.org. And you can also check them out on Instagram as well, Eustress Inc. And, we'll get all of that in the show notes for you. All right, Leon, it is time for Jordan to do, oh my God.
Yes. Before I do though, let me just back up because I wanted to tell y'all that Eustress and Renshawn has some programming that's specifically geared toward Black men and Black boys, and I always want to highlight that because maybe that isn't as apparent. I'm always trying to make sure people are aware of resources that could actually like help the fellas too. So definitely check them out.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, he definitely does a lot with men and also sports. Yep. He does a lot with sports and mental health.
Yeah. So I just thought I would let y'all know in case you have a gentleman or a child in your life who is struggling with their mental health, might be a good place to send him to or, refer him to. That way they can see like other Black men living with a mental health disorder and thriving. Because it's all about community. So yeah, just wanted to add that before I get into this. Oh my God. Okay, y'all. So, oh my God. Literally an oh my God. This, I guess it'll be like 2 weeks ago when y'all hear this. But T-Kea and I, we went to a mental health event for Anne Arundel County here in Maryland. And they had a bunch of community resources. And it was a free event for people to come out, see what's out there, pick up some goodies, learn about the mental health resources in the county. And T-Kea and I was there. We set up shop, met lots of people. If we met you there, hi. Yeah, everything was going great. Everything was going great. Number one, I got All Lives Mattered by a little kid, which was, that's a whole nother topic. But there was a lady who talked to me and she came by our table and she saw our organization and I was telling her about it. And I told her that, I had struggled with my own mental health and was having suicidal thoughts before and I've been hospitalized, and T-Kea's story, and she lost her 13-year-old cousin. And she was like, wow, this is great. Like, I'm so glad that I'm so glad that you're still here because, you would have went to hell if you did that. And I was like, oh my God.
Stop, Jordan. I can't even get out. I'm so still, stopped her dead in her tracks. Jordan didn't even know what to say. She was speechless, but she told me and I was ready to go to war, okay? She definitely caught off guard. I don't know if, how I would have responded in that situation. I just know when she told me, I was ready. I was ready to square up, that's why our organization is needed. So if you are the lady and if you're following us on Instagram or you see this YouTube, ma'am, what you said was so inappropriate. One, we have to stop telling people that they're going to hell. If somebody died from cancer, diabetes, we would not say that person is going to hell. We would say they're in a better place. They're with God. That is so invalidating. It's just all wrong. And I was so upset by it. One, because of the organization, that's one. But it was more so because she said it to somebody I love and care about. So it just sting. And I was pissed off. And I told Jordan, I should have. I could have just still went and talked to her. Jordan was pulling my jacket back. I was like, Jordan, I'm not going to curse her out. I'm just going to tell her, like, ma'am, what you said was inappropriate. And it just was not right. So I felt away, and everybody, well, not, I don't know if y'all know this, but I am a bit overprotective when it comes to Jordan. Not like she's not a capable adult and she can't take care of it. Obviously she can. But I'm just saying. So I think I was upset overall, but more so because it was you. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh boy.
Mm.
In hindsight, I probably should have let you go and tell her because I would.
It would have been helpful.
I'm sorry. It would have been helpful for sure. And only because like I know she was trying to say something coming from a good place, but lady, that's not it.
That's not it.
I think she even said afterwards, like, now when you die, you go to heaven. And I was just like, oh.
I called my mother and I told her, and I can't say what I told my mom because it's inappropriate. But I said a few things about the lady because I was very upset.
It didn't surprise me, but, well, yes, it did. It surprised me in the fact that it caught me off guard. And I was just blinking like, okay. But it didn't surprise me because that's a common thing that I think a lot of us hear, especially in the Black community when it comes to suicide. The idea that, it's against God. And like T-Kea said, if someone gets sick and they die of a physical illness, like, we don't say that to people. Like, mental health problems, having suicidal ideation is a red flag that something is wrong mentally and something needs to be addressed. The same way having a high A1C means you need to manage your blood sugar, or your if your blood pressure is high, you have to manage. Like, if you have cancer, you have to manage. But yeah, it's a long way to go for stigma, and
We've come some ways.
we have come some ways for sure. But it's a long way to go. And I would just hope that she wouldn't say that to someone else. But
yeah, she's the reason why people out here.
yeah,
She the one saying, yeah. I think for me, it's also because it gives this narrative that you can just snap out of it or just like pull yourself up. And if it was that easy, everybody would do it. And secondly, I'm not going to tell, if I'm having an asthma attack, no one will ever say, T-Kea, just snap out of it. Like, start breathing, you know? So, yeah.
the field of psychology, psychiatry, it would not exist. You do realize it would not exist if people could just, let me just stop hearing voices. Let me stop feeling depressed. Let me stop feeling suicidal. Oh, I can turn off the feelings of anxiety. That doesn't make sense. The same way someone who has a physical illness can't just, turn the switch. It's the same for us. So, yeah, that was definitely an oh my God moment. And for the people who are listening, and who would have that reaction, I get that you mean well. I get that that's your faith, but understand that that is not helpful for in the ways that we've described, because you probably would not say that to someone who's dealing with a physical illness. So just be mindful,
Yes, and it forces people to shut down.
Yeah.
Because now they don't feel safe, they don't feel validated, and are probably more likely to go attempt at that point.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So be mindful. If your goal is to help and save a person's life, we understand, like you said, it's coming from a good place, but it's not helpful. So
yeah. And if you are someone who is, I guess, religious, and you feel that way, I would encourage you to go back and listen to our episode with Tandra Rutledge with Soul Shop. They are like, they incorporate suicide prevention in the church, so that might give you a different perspective from someone who actually works in that arena.
Or take the training.
Soul Shop, you can take a training for Soul Shop.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's a better way for us to address that. Not you're gonna go to hell if you die by suicide. Yeah.
Moving along to our community Changemaker, which is someone that is a huge supporter.
She is.
Which I love. She has been a great person who has helped me when mental health first aid went from in-person to virtual because I struggled with the changes in the curriculum. Naeemah Staggs, she's a certified clinical trauma specialist. She works in social work. She's currently pursuing her ED, so Doctorate of Education. And she does a lot in terms of promoting community and healing and wellness. And she used to be a therapist, but she now focuses on, I think, I remember we having a conversation. She focused more on like the big picture, the macro as it relates to wellness versus individual work. So that's kind of her thing. And she does a lot of work. She's certified to do like everything, like QPR, mental health first aid. She does a lot of trainings. She's a national trainer for mental health first aid, so she trains the trainer. Yeah, she's just doing amazing work. So NaeemahStaggs.com, or you can follow her on Instagram at I Choose the Sun, which will also be in the show notes. Announcements. You want to share the announcements?
Absolutely. All right. So, for some events that we have coming up, as we mentioned, by the time you all hear this, we would have just come back from North Carolina with Stress and their Let's Talk About It mental health walk and their gala. But coming back, we have some events that are coming up later in September.
September.
I mean, oh my God. I'm thinking about September, y'all, because that in my head, like Suicide Awareness Month, it's May. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. I apologize for that. So we have an event with the Shepherd's House International Christian Church. It's the Soul Care Breaking the Stigma with Coping Tips and Strategies. That's going to be a virtual event.
And I'll put it in. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was thinking. I'll make sure that we have the Zoom link so you can tune in.
Okay.
And it'll be in the show notes.
Okay, great.
So that we have that. Just wanted to mention that.
And then we also have the Black and Suicidal Support Group, y'all. As we mentioned earlier, it's really taken off. Y'all, we have international participation.
Mm-hmm.
So get in on this.
Somebody from Canada was in the group.
Listen. Definitely want people to join. Again, it's free. Our groups have a sponsor, so you can join in. If you know someone who is suffering, they can join in for free. We would love to have them, and that's going to be on Thursday, May 30th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. The event will be virtual, and we'll have the link in the show notes as well. You just register on Eventbrite, and we would absolutely love to see you there. And then finally, at the end of this month, we're partnering with the Pride Center of Maryland here in Baltimore. That's May 31st from 3:30 to 6 p.m. We're going to have an event where we're talking about suicide as it relates to the LGBTQIA plus community. So definitely come out for that. We'll have the registration link in the show notes as well. This is a busy month. And the reason I said September, because I know May and September are going to be like our busy seasons, because those are the mental health months, right? And yeah, we would absolutely love to see you all out in the community or virtually. All the people who come and like to events in person and see us, and they're like, I follow y'all on Instagram. I'm like, oh, that is so cool. Like, I'm glad you got to run into us in the wild. We would love to see you all, so definitely encourage people to come to our groups. Again, I cannot stress this enough. It is free. You don't have to deal with whatever you're dealing with alone. We would love to have you.
Absolutely. Diving on into our self-care segment, y'all. What I'm going to do for self-care. So it's like the traveling is catching up to me because I've been traveling a lot. So for me, when we get back from North Carolina, I will focus on getting back on my sleep schedule. that would be priority, because when I'm just not a nice person, and it's not fun. So that's my priority for self-care. Um, yes, and getting back to reading, which was I would read before I would go to bed, so that kind of goes hand in hand. So
Hmm.
yes, so that is my focus once we get back.
I think for me, self care, number one, I'm thinking about switching to a different counseling center because I wanted to find someone who has a little bit more experience, particularly with ADHD, because I know that that has a lot of behavioral components to it in terms of treating it. So I saw like there's some productivity apps that can help you, I guess, keep track if you're trying to get something done. There's another thing like I'm gonna butcher the name, Pomodoro.
Oh yeah, Dr. RJ had told me about that.
That's what I'm gonna try to do. Like where you work, I guess consistently for a period of time, and then follow that with like a brief break and then
Hmm.
get back into it. So I do want to try that. And I'm also thinking about doing like body doubling where they actually have spaces online. People probably already know this and I'm just, out of touch because I'm out of touch with technology, but they have spaces where you can like log in with someone else and just work alongside them at the same time, even if like obviously they're a stranger, you don't know them, you're not really like talking to them about what you're doing, but the fact that someone's next to you
Hmm.
working helps you stay on track.
It does.
So I was like,
Hmm.
oh, this is so
Hmm.
interesting. So those are some things that I want to implement, not just to, well, I know I have to do the stuff to kind of work on my mood things, of course, but I also want to do things that are behavioral changes specifically to help with ADHD and see if that helps me be a lot more productive. Because I had the thought the other day, like, Jordan, are you just gonna sit here and like, are you just gonna sit here and die? Or are you gonna do something about it? Like, you have the power to change. And as I'm still waiting for the hospital to get back with me or something, there's things that I can implement in the meantime and in between time that would help me with my mental health and productivity, because I think that would really help me go a long way in terms of my recovery. And I'm excited to try something different. So I'll keep y'all posted on how some of those techniques are working. And
And I'll hold her accountable.
yes, please do, because um, I don't know. I just want to get back to feeling like myself again. And I think that's probably, again, one of the missing pieces that I really wasn't capturing in the past because I had no idea that this was something I was dealing with. Um, and yeah, I will definitely keep y'all posted on that. And we're hoping that y'all are taking care of your self care as well.
Right. That's the purpose, is to hold ourselves accountable, but also to get you thinking like, hold up, how am I feeling, and am I actually taking care of myself? And there's some seasons where you might be winning, because there are some seasons where I feel like I am crushing it,
Yeah, right.
you know?
Because I don't always feel this way. I really don't.
Hmm.
This is not always a struggle for me. But when it's a struggle for me, it's a struggle for me. And so I want to do that. And then physically, I want to do some more, I guess, movement in the summertime coming up. So I'm going to sign up for a line dance class. And I've done this before. Y'all know I love me a good line dance. I really do.
I'm going to post her, y'all, so y'all can see. I posted you in my stories, and everybody was hearting my stories. I was so jealous because she know how to do the Tamia dance.
I do.
And I took her on a challenge, right? For like 4 hours, I was in the living room just getting it, because I was like, she not about to outdo me, okay?
And you know what? I inherited my mom's two left feet, so I'm not a good dancer, but I love me a good like line dance. And we had a lot of fun again at the community event where I was told what I was told in the Oh My God segment. They had a lot of line dancing, and it was so much fun. And I was like, "Ooh, I need to go back for a class." So Prince George's County, they're offering some line dance classes again. So I'm going to sign up for that just to get some, some exercise. And it's something that's fun that I like to do. And those are going to be my self care things.
Good. Those
Yeah.
are all good. I love that. I love that you brought up the line dance. I'm always trying to encourage people when you think about physical movement, just do something you enjoy. You
Right.
know,
Mm-hmm.
like if you don't like being on a treadmill, then don't get on a treadmill. If you like walking, just go for a walk. If you like line dancing, if you like twerking, sis, take a twerk class.
Yes, we did that.
Because I definitely took a twerk class with Jordan. And it's exercise.
Yeah.
So do things that you enjoy because it's good for your physical and your mental health, you know? So just do things you enjoy. If you don't like doing it, don't do it.
Yeah, I think I'm also gonna see if I can find a go-go fitness class for those of you who are not in the DMV. Y'all know go-go is our jam. And they used to have a class at Iverson Mall, so I'm gonna see if they're still there. I think they were called Go-Go Fitness, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm gonna look it up and see if I can find them because that will be fun to do too. But I really have to do more exercise because that definitely has a positive impact on my mental health. So those are the things I'm looking forward to doing this summer, and I will definitely keep y'all posted on that.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then for the moment of inspiration, oh, wait, let me stop. Back up. Again, social media. Follow us on Instagram, Black People Die by Suicide too.
Yes.
Um,
And the next month we gonna get our Facebook back up and running. Stay tuned, okay?
yeah,
But yes.
yeah. We would love for y'all to come and join the party over there. And you'll be able to keep up with like all the things that we have going on because our amazing communications team in T-Kea, they keep up with letting y'all know where we're going to be and what we got going on. So if you want to, uh, you know,
And you'll hear about it first, most likely
yeah.
on social media, than the podcast because the podcast is only bi-weekly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sign up for our newsletter because you'll also hear about it. And we have a monthly newsletter, and it always has all of our events and what we have going on. So our website, blackpeoplediebysuicide2.org, to sign up for our monthly newsletter and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. That's a work in progress. Y'all prefer to listen, which is great, but YouTube is a whole little monster.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. So for our moment of inspiration, I just wanted to say again, if you've been thinking about doing something like a podcast or starting a nonprofit or something that you think would be beneficial for others, don't be afraid to do it. I think that probably was the biggest lesson that I learned over the past year is to put my fear to the side and know that you're going to be helping other people. And that's really what it's really what keeps me going in this process and makes me want to continue doing this work because it's bigger than me and I have an opportunity to help people find a safe space which I didn't have for the majority of my mental health journey and struggles. And that makes me really, really happy. And I'm glad that people are finding the support groups helpful. I'm glad that people are listening to the podcast. 21K for downloads?
For the year.
For the year. Like 21,000 people, like, or, downloads that we've had. People are listening, and that makes me really happy. And if you want to do something similar, you can have just as much impact. There's lots of room in this space. We need more Black people talking about suicide and mental health, particularly suicide. And yeah, put your fears to the side. Like, this is so much bigger than us. Like, we're really helping to change the Black community for the better. Yeah, that's my moment of inspiration.
That's great. It is very great. I'm laughing because what I'm about to say. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, right? We talked about May. Y'all, we set the goal to raise $1,500. So I'm going to encourage you to go to our website and click the donate button and make a donation of whatever amount you would like to. It can be monthly, it can be annually, it can be a one-time donation. And you can also on our Instagram, you can donate there because we have a fundraiser going on Instagram. And or you can just go to the link in our Instagram bio and donate specifically to the campaign. So there are multiple ways. So we would encourage you to also donate to support the mission. When you donate, it goes directly to all of the programs and the funds that we're doing. And complete transparency, Jordan and I have been working extremely hard. And in the past year, we have invested our own finances into not just the podcast, but the organization. And we have not been able to pay ourselves yet. And that's just because we're so committed to the mission. While that is eventually a goal, it's not the immediate goal. Well, let me not say it's not the immediate goal. It is a goal, but that's not like the focus. The focus is on the community and really helping to save lives. So when you donate, it does not go into me and Jordan's pockets. It really goes directly to the organization. And that's how much we're committed to this work. Is we've invested not just our time but our own finances. And I'm not gonna tell y'all how much we have put into the organization, but just know it's a lot.
Yeah.
But thank you all so much for supporting us, for rocking with us in our 1-year anniversary. And I'm just so excited about where the organization will go, where it will be. We have some amazing things that are coming up, and y'all just stay along for the ride.